And welcome to Hannity this Monday night. Wow, a lot of news tonight. Tonight, Joe Biden reportedly anxious and angry over his re-election prospects. Why? In poll after poll after poll, well, Donald Trump is beating the current president. Demographically, Joe is losing huge parts of his base. He's losing huge numbers with African Americans, Hispanic Americans, young people, suburban moms. They're leaving him. And now Democrats, the Biden campaign, the mob and the media, they are all desperate. And I mean desperate. Now, some would even say that, well, the left is bracing for a political bloodbath, which is why they are desperately now praying that Donald Trump spends the next 231 days in courtrooms all across America in the hopes that Joe Biden's weaponized Department of Justice can help Joey win the day. But whatever you do, just don't call it a bloodbath. Or Democrats, they will accuse you of fomenting violence. The same people that said the 574 riots in the summer of 2020 that killed dozens of Americans, injured thousands of cops, pelted with bricks, rocks, bottles, Molotov cocktails, and caused billions in property damage, they claim they were mostly peaceful. Now, more desperation on their part. Over the weekend, Trump used the phrase to describe the potential economic fallout of a second Joe Biden term. But according to the left and their allies in the mob and the media, Trump committed a mortal sin with a threatening call to arms. In what is now even a deleted post, our old friend liberal Joe Scarborough breathlessly stating, following, quote, Donald Trump's America, and he is proud of it, promised another bloodbath if he loses again. You mean like the riots in 2020 that liberals said were mostly peaceful? Anyway, now this is just the tip of the iceberg. But before we get to all the insane hysteria, and we've got great montages tonight, and the blatant hypocrisy, let's just listen to former President Trump's full remarks. Let's actually play them in context, in his own words. No editing. Take a look.
Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
And he talks about cars again. He was talking about the cars and the auto industry. You just heard the speech. The president was discussing the automobile industry. If you have a brain and any intellectual honesty, you will admit that and acknowledge that. But let's see how the Democrats and the lying, corrupt media mob, their best friends and their chief donors, characterize these remarks. This should not shock you, but take a look anyway.
One specific remark from Donald Trump's rally on Saturday has set off a political firestorm, but is it possible the firestorm is missing what should be of real concern?
We just have to win this election because he's even predicting a bloodbath. What does that mean? He's going to exact a bloodbath? There's something wrong here.
When the former president, who's already incited violence among his followers, says that there's going to be a bloodbath after the election if he does not win, he is telling us what he is going to do.
A major party candidate is saying, you elect me, there's going to be dictatorship, bloodbath, violence, retribution against my political enemies. That equals what we saw in Italy and Germany and other places.
If you look at the way he said this, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, then he stops. That's going to be the least of it. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
Obviously, he's talking about a bloodbath for America. It's laid out in the terms of it. And these idiots on Twitter, these idiots on cable news, these idiots on Sunday shows going, well, presidents, you know, he was talking only about the auto industry, and this is one more. It's just bull. Let me say that at 6:15 a.m. It's just bull.
I mean, you got to laugh. just, full-blown lying, dishonesty, hysteria from NBC, CBS, fake news, CNN, MSDNC, the New York Times, pretty much everyone in the Democratic Party, every single, quote, mainstream media outlet, they're just flat out lying to your face. Now, Trump's full remarks are on tape. He's clearly not calling for political violence at all. In fact, he is using, well, let's say a pretty normal analogy. As a matter of fact, this phrase, pay attention, Liberal Joe, is very common on the left. Let's remind you.
Republicans understand that they're headed for another potential electoral bloodbath.
Quickly, it's still not clear that Donald Trump will in fact testify, because I think that would be a bit of a bloodbath.
Major universities bracing for a bleak financial situation. Why one expert is predicting a bloodbath as classes resume this fall.
But as Politico.com reports tonight on the, quote, bloodbath at the RNC.
Coming out of Iowa, they were promising that this was effectively going to be a bloodbath. Not only is it going to be a bloodbath, but after they leave New Hampshire, it's a bloodbath on her home turf. That's really tough. And Trump has left a lot of corpses in his wake.
The thing I fear most is if he doesn't run, there's going to be a bloodbath of the Democratic Party.
Because the battle is already on. Donald Trump is going to win this nomination, and we need to be ready for that. Look, it is a long fight ahead. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anybody. People who don't think this election is going to be a bloodbath are mistaken.
As the administration braces itself for a bloodbath in 2018 and a wave of staff departures.
We're going to begin right off the bat with some breaking news in our money lead and what's being described as a market bloodbath.
It's like we're doing just great in Georgia and, Ohio. Good God, was that a bloodbath the other night?
Florida is going to be a political bloodbath for Bernie Sanders.
You can't make it up, can you? Even Joe Biden himself, he used the term in 2020, telling donors that the Bernie Sanders campaign might cause a primary bloodbath. And here's where it gets the most interesting. Democrats, the mob, the media, they have done far worse than use the term bloodbath in a political analogy in recent years. Some actually even calling for Donald Trump's assassination. Others, including your vice president, Kamala Harris. Remember the bail fund she tweeted out after the precinct in Minneapolis was burned to the ground, and they're not going to stop, we're not going to stop, encouraging the rioting in that summer of love and promoting the bail fund for dangerous criminals. Many have stated publicly they wanted to punch Trump in the face, or as Joe Biden said, I wish we were in high school so I could take him behind the gym. Well, if there's a windstorm, Joe may be blown over. The Senate Majority Leader, Chuckie Schumer, even threatening the United States Supreme Court during a violent speech on the very steps of the U.S. Supreme Court. And that's not all. Let's take a trip down memory lane. This is probably my favorite montage of the night. Take a look.
And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives. And unfortunately, there's plenty to go around.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president? I want to clarify, I'm not an actor. I lie for a living. However, it's been a while. And maybe it's time.
How dare he say the things he does? Of course I want to punch him in the face.
Right. Yes! If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
Michelle says that, when they go low, we go high. No. When they go low, we kick them.
I'll put Mr. Burgess up against Sean Hannity. He'll tear him up.
The press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym. That's what I wish.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Was that Obama wanting somebody to beat me up? I'll take him on, whoever Mr. Burgess is, if he wants to, bring it on. Anyway, keep in mind, there was no media hysteria after the violent rhetoric, none. But they take the words of Donald Trump completely out of context. They pretend that we are facing an existential crisis, and this is what they do every day. The top donors to the Biden campaign this year, like in 2020, like Hillary Clinton in 2016, will be the mob and the media. Not to be outdone, the Biden campaign actually released this new, disgusting, dishonest ad. Take a look.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath, and it's going to be a bloodbath for the country. Jews will not replace us. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. It's going to be a bloodbath.
Now, this comes just a few days after a previous ad comparing again Trump to the KKK. Here's the truth, though. Well, Joe Biden, your president, is the only candidate in this race who praised the former Klansman Robert KKK Byrd. He called him a friend and a mentor. Joe Biden, your president, he is the only candidate who worked with the Klansman, Robert Byrd, and other segregationists. Why? They wanted to stop the integration of schools and school busing because he didn't want kids going to schools and growing up in a, his words, racial jungle. That's Joe Biden, the only candidate who told African Americans they ain't black if they don't vote for him. Joe Biden's the only candidate who lies regularly about his role in the civil rights era. So Biden's attacks are, well, pretty bizarre, beyond dishonest. He's full of lies. He lacks all self-awareness. But his campaign, they have no choice. Here's their problem. They cannot run on his record in 231 days. Your lives have become much worse under your President Joe. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Under Joe Biden, hell no. He has failed, and he's failed miserably. But the question tonight, where do we go from here? Joe has already jumped the shark, compared Trump to the KKK. He's accusing Trump of ending American democracy. He's lying about abortion. We now know they lied a lot about January 6th and kept a lot of information from that was exculpatory from you, the American people. And he's lied about the economy. Are you better off? Joe Biden is fomenting panic, hysteria. He's promoting a fake existential crisis. He's trying to prop up his shrinking base in the mob and the media. They just are an extension of the Biden campaign. I've enjoyed that. That was cathartic for me. Love those montages. Thank you to my team. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.